So I'm really excited to introduce Robert Leamon. Robert and I had met a year ago at the CFS Provincial AGM in Corner Brook. We were roomies at the CFS Skills this year. I've learned a lot from Robert in the time that I've known him, and Robert has a lot of experience and has been involved in the student movement starting in 2009 in Corner Brook, moving from there all the way over here. And I'd like to think that you've had an effect on people all across the province and in Labrador. So thank you very much for coming on today, Robert.
Thanks for having me.
No, thanks, Robert. It's great to have you here. So now, first off, for anyone who doesn't know you, do you want to maybe talk a little bit about your experience and maybe how, why, when you got into student politics?
Sure. I have been around for a lot of years, so I'll try not to drag on too long. But basically my story is that I got involved in the Grenfell campus student union at 2009 when I first started university. Their elections happened in the fall semester, so I actually had the opportunity to run as a councillor at large very first thing of that year. So within my first couple of weeks of being a student, I was elected to the students union there. So I was in that position for that year, and I ran for an executive position at the end of my first year there, lost that race. And then took a step back for a semester from the Students' Union, but after realizing what I had been missing and how much I really cared about all the issues of the Students' Union, I decided to run for the position of president of the Student Union there in a by-election in my second year, and was able to get re-elected to that position twice, so serving a total of 2.5 years in that position. As well, I've worked with CFSNL and was provincial campaigns coordinator for 2 years. And in terms of my experience over the past year, I moved to this campus a little over a year ago to pursue political science. And since coming out here, I was able to serve as a staff member for MUNSU as a campaigns assistant, working directly with the current director of campaigns, as well as being able to work as a student senator representing students on that body. I've actually been doing that for 3 years. So that's I guess a brief overview of my experience. So, been around for a while.
And you're really passionate about it. Was this something that's always been involved, and like why are you so involved in this? You seem like a passionate person. That energy could be channeled into a lot of great things, but you've chosen this path. So why would you have picked that? And does it have anything to do with maybe your future? Do you see yourself being involved in this a really long time?
Yeah. So in terms of when I started in the Students' Union, it was more of I've always seen myself as a person who wants to be engaged in the community and helping people as much as possible, and has a lot of passion for a lot of different things. So when I first got involved in the Students' Union, it was sort of under that mindset of just sort of trying to get involved in as many different things as possible and help as many different people as I could in any way. But when I took a step back from the Students' Union at the end of my first year after losing in an executive election and sort of stepping away from that role for a little while, I realized just how much I cared about issues that are specific to students. It was actually, I had a conversation with other students who had gotten elected and were serving at the Students' Union there about some of the things that they were working on, and having been away from it for a couple of months, I realized that actually this was something that I cared a lot about, specific students issues. So I knew that it was something that I really wanted to focus on. In terms of going forward from now, like luckily and thankfully to all the students of Memorial, I've been elected to this position and look very much forward to serving in this for the next year. But I do plan on graduating at some point. Next year will be the end of I'll have been in university for 6 years next year. So I do plan on finishing at the end of next year. So in terms of like a broader sense of what I'd like to be doing, it will definitely be something related to social justice, and I look forward to seeing how that plays out.
Very cool, very cool. So now next year, we do still have you for the year. What are some of your biggest goals? Maybe like a top 3 or so for your position next year.
Sure. So I think the first major goal that I would have is just increasing a sense of ownership that students have of the Students' Union, trying to get more students involved in the processes that we have in terms of developing the campaigns and actually implementing those campaigns. In terms of creating a sense of ownership, I think when students actually have a say, or more of a say, in the ideas of developing campaigns or or what campaigns we're actually doing, students are more likely to want to see those kinds of things succeed. If something's your idea, you want to make sure that it actually works. So by bringing in as many students into those kinds of processes, like increasing membership and engagement in the Student Rights and Actions Committee, then I think that we'll be able to increase that sense of ownership, and that's something that I want to build on my past experience in doing that kind of work and apply that to this campus. My second goal would be to try to encourage as many students as possible to basically utilize me as a resource for the kinds of things that they want to see from Memorial, because as we've briefly talked about, like I've been within the Memorial structure and been involved with students unions for 5 years now, going into my 6th. So I do have a lot of experience, and I'm hoping that I'm able to use that and channel that into just basically helping students take action on issues that are important to them. There's a lot of things that students care about and want to change about Memorial and make lives for students better, and I feel like I've got a lot of experience, and I just basically want to be able to have conversations with students and be able to work on those things for and with students. As well, one of the big things that I talked about on my platform was focusing on stress for students, because that's something that about 90% of students said that they were completely overwhelmed by everything that they had to do last year. So stress is a very big issue on this campus. So I look forward to actually working on some of the things that I talked about in the campaigns in terms of some of the direct measures like improving the counseling centers, focusing on finances and affordability of education, so students aren't focused on those things. They're actually able to focus more so on their academics, and as well starting some of the processes to hopefully work towards the 5-day break.
Yeah, so I'm gonna kind of briefly explain what I think the position is. I'm the executive director of campaigns. Not only oversees the campaigns as yourself, you have a committee that oversees stuff. You have like local campaigns such as the crosswalk safety things, and then there's provincial and national campaigns like the Unlearn campaign and the No Means No campaign. So could you talk a little bit about the nature of a local campaign versus a provincial or a federal campaign, and kind of how those campaigns kind of start?
Yeah. So one of the important things about how campaigns start is that whether it's a local campaign or a provincial campaign or a national campaign, all of the campaigns that we work on originate from issues that face students. So students on our campuses, or particularly at this campus, realize that we have issues, that as students we face particular issues, and we use the Students' Union as a mechanism to actually take action on those issues. And in terms of like how the structure works, in terms of being local, provincial, or national, the MUN Students' Union is a member of the Canadian Federation of Students. As I mentioned, I have a lot of experience with that organization. So all of the students at Memorial are also in turn members of the Canadian Federation of Students. So if at any time there are things that students want to be working on that need to be addressed either at a local, provincial, or national level, that's what both the local Students' Union and the National Canadian Federation of Students provincial organization, that's what it's there for. There are some things that are important to students that need the Students' Union here to work directly with the administration to take action on, so those would be more so some local things, but as well there's things that a Students' Union on their own aren't able to actually effectively work on. So when we're dealing with the provincial government to work on things like affordability of education, it's important that we're being a part of a bigger provincial organization. So really it just depends on what the particular issue is, but ultimately it does all relate back to being issues that students on campuses find important to them.
And I imagine some of these campaigns could start locally and evolve and adapt into a national campaign, and maybe even vice versa.
That's probably how most of them
and
start.
some would start and maybe resonate longer in some places than others.
Okay, so we're going to jump back to this this sort of election season. What do you think now? I mean, you obviously won, so you clearly ran a great campaign. But what do you think some of the maybe the strengths and the weaknesses were, and maybe even what kind of gave you the edge in this race?
I have to put a big thank you out to my campaigns team for this one. I had a lot of people helping me out as much as they could in terms of just going around and talking to other students and encouraging them to get out and vote. And as well, I had people positioned in certain areas, just talking to students and handing out my handouts and those kind of things. So big thank you to my team in that regard. I think as well it also comes back to my experience with students on this campus, and as well with students as general. I know a lot of the issues that are facing students, and I also have a lot of experience to actually take action on those kinds of things. So I think it was a combination of both being able to be on campus and focus and work really hard on campaign days, and like encouraging people to learn more about the Students' Union, to get out and vote, as well as my campaigns team doing that work as well.
And I just furthermore on the campaign thing, because I think it's really interesting to run a campaign. What kind of and because people are constantly like moving on and we're only here for such a limited time, if somebody was going to run their very first campaign, like what would you tell like little Robert Leamon in 2009 before he ran his first campaign? Advice that you would give yourself, like, because it sounds like you really emphasize the team. So maybe you could speak to the importance of a team, or.
Well, I think what I would talk about in terms of getting involved in your students' union, even before the election process, is that we need to be talking more about the fact that you can get involved in your students' union more than just running in an election and being on the board of directors. There's tons and tons and tons of other ways that you can get involved in your students' union. We have the committee structures that meet biweekly. For me, my position in particular, the Students' Rights and Actions Committee. So if a student is interested in actually getting involved in the students' union, but it isn't during election season, then by all means, drop by to one of those meetings. Or it doesn't even have to be just biweekly. Feel free to drop by my office anytime when I start there on May 1st, or as well, like, I handed out a lot of my personal information in terms of like Twitter and Facebook. I'm always open to chatting with students, and my email will be campaigns@munsu.ca. So like, always shoot me an email anytime. I'm always open to having a chat. So yeah, I guess that would be my biggest thing. It would just be that you don't have to wait until an election to get involved in your students' union. Just we're always here. Just get involved.
Yeah, boom! I love that.
So I guess we got one more question before we go. We're actually going to leave ourselves some time to shamelessly plug our brand at the end. So same question as Devin. If you could say something right now and you knew that all 13,000 undergrad MUNSU members were going to hear it, what would you say?
Get involved. It's your union. And that I guess that just reiterates the points that I just made. Like, the students' union isn't just a board of directors that gets elected at one point of the year. It's a union of all of the students at Memorial University, and we're working together to take action on issues that are important to us as students. So I guess my big thing would just be, don't ever be afraid to just get involved, or just come have a conversation about the kinds of things that you can do, or the kinds of things that I can do as director of campaigns to help you do what you want to do. So that would be my biggest thing. Just don't be afraid to get involved.
Excellent.
Thank you very much.
That's all great. Thanks a lot for coming on the